Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we are going to be creating a fun enamel look brooch to put on your cards. So I am going to be using the Crafter Flower Cistus, and I'm also going to be using the Red Sunset and also the Coffee Break gradient cardstock sets. So for the base layer of the flowers, I'm going to be using the Red Sunset, and from there I am going to be using the Blush cardstock. So I'm just going to pop them into place, and I'm just going to run through those through my die cutting machine. I'm then going to take the second layers for both of the flowers, and I'm going to be using the rouge for this one. So this is just going to go up. You can use the layering guide to let you know which kind of colours to use for your flowers. So just make sure that you're going from lightest to darkest on this one here. So I'm just going to remove all those little pieces and then pop those over to the side. Now for the third layer, I am going to be using that beautiful crimson colour. So again, I'm just going to pop that into place and then run that through. Because this one did have quite a bit of detail on it, I did decide to use my little metal shim just to make sure it was going to cut perfectly the first time. I'm then going to move on to the fourth layer, and I'm just going to pop these into place onto the velvet ink, and I'm just going to run that through the machine and then add those onto my little pile of die cuts that we have going on. I'm then going to move on to the leaves, and for these ones I am going to be using the Coffee Break gradient cardstock. So I'm going to take the lightest colour from the set, and I'm going to cut the base layer 3 times each from that cardstock there. Now this one here, the second layer, I did need to use the metal shim just to make sure all those detail parts did cut properly. And I'm just using the second lightest colour for that one. I believe that one's the Rocky Shore. And I'm then going to take the Mocha, I believe, for the third layer. So this is the third darkest, or the second darkest in the set. So that was for the third layer of the leaves. And I've also cut the flower centers from that one too. So once I have all of my die cuts, I'm then going to add them together. I am using some wet glue for this. Reason being, I want everything to be really glued down tightly as we're going to be creating a brooch from one of these flowers. So I'm just going to be using the layering guide just to pop them together, and they do fit together perfectly and quite easily, I have to say. So once I finish the flowers, I can then move on to the leaves, and again I'm just using the wet glue for these, and I am going to be using 2 of these leaves and 1 of the flowers for the brooch. So that big flower that we have there, and also 2 of these leaves. The rest will be kind of the decoration for the card. I'm then going to take the base layers again for the flower and leaf that I'm going to be using for the brooch. And this is just going to act as a base for the little brooch that we're creating. So I'm going to take the same die and I'm going to pop that into place onto the leaf where I want that to be under the flower. Now I want this to be nice and flat, so when we do our embossing, everything's going to be on one flat surface apart from the raised areas of the die cut. So all I'm going to do is just do that, and then it's just going to fit perfectly into position back into that flower, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle piece. I can then take the base that we created, the extra base, and then pop that into place underneath the flower, which is really cool. So it kind of tucks everything in nice and neatly. I'm going to do exactly the same for the second leaf. Pop the die into place where you want it to cut, and then cut that through. You may need to run it through a couple of times just to make sure you get through all of those cardstock layers. Again, add that onto the base and then add that behind the flower. Once that's done, we're going to kind of neaten that up with the base that we have of the flower, and then just pop that into place, and it's going to keep everything nice and sturdy. Once that's done, I'm going to take some embossing ink, and I'm just going to add this all over this beautiful die cut that we have here now. I'm going to use some crystal clear embossing powder, and I'm just going to add lots of layers of embossing powder. Now you can just keep heat setting this, add in the kind of embossing powder that we have, and you can do this as many times as you want. I think I did about 5 layers on mine, but if you wanted it more enamel-y and more thick and shiny, you can definitely add more layers. Now we have the enamel look, we're also going to create the brooch. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of felt, and I'm just going to cut the flower base from this. It may need a little bit of snips here and there because it is quite thick to go through the die. I'm also going to add a brooch back. So this is out of my little stash that I have, and I'm just going to have another piece of felt which is just going to fit through that little brooch back just to keep it into place. So I am going to be using some felt glue for this. So once I have all my little brooch pieces ready, I'm then going to see how this fits on the back, and it fits perfectly. So I'm going to be using felt and foam glue. Now my nozzle was a little bit stuck, so I'm just going to be using a little paintbrush just to paint on this really good glue on the back, and then that's going to adhere to the back of the brooch. Then pop your little brooch bit into place, add some more glue to the little holder that we have for the back, and then run that through the back of the brooch and then press that down, and you're going to need to leave that to dry till it's nice and strong. So once that's nice and dry, we can then move on to the card. So I have a card base here which is made out of some of the Moonrock Cardstock, and I'm just going to pop my little brooch into place. I'm then going to move the other little bits that we have around this just to kind of add a little bit more detail. I'm going to take a pencil and just kind of marking where the back of that brooch is going to sit. And I also have a strip of cardstock. So this is going to be our little holder on the card, so we can take the brooch off and we can put it back on if we need to. I'm just going to add a little bit of super sticky tape just to this little fold that I've created on the strip, and this is what's going to attach to the card. So I'm just going to pop that over the little guide that we have there, keeping it in the same kind of orientation. I'm then going to open the card up, and then I'm going to add a slit through here just at the base of that little fold that we have attached to the card. Once I've done that, I can then add the strip behind the little brooch back that we have there, and then push the rest of that strip through the card. Now you will see that strip on the inside, but I don't think it's too distracting to the inside of the card base because it's the same color as the card base. So it will move around a little bit, but I still think it's really, really cute. So once we have the brooch into position, we can then add our other die cut flowers that we have. So I'm adding the flower in with a little bit of foam tape to add a little bit of dimension there. And then I'm also going to add the leaves into place with some glue tape. So once that's all in position, I'm then just going to add my sentiment in. So the sentiment is from the Fancy Greetings stamp set, and I'm going to be using some Obsidian ink just to stamp that in place. And here is the card complete. As you can see, we can remove the brooch just by pushing the little strip up. And then if you want to pop that back into place, you're just going to add it on like we did before. So kind of push it down the strip and then push the strip through the card face. So everyone, I really do hope that you love this card as much as I do and that you've enjoyed the video too. If you do create a card that was inspired by this, it would be great if you do share because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching everyone, and have a really beautiful day. Bye-bye. Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.